Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a little bit of Aramaic on a Sunday morning. We're continuing in Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, with the Lord's Prayer or the Our Father. And we are looking at the word um, translated as heaven. And of course, just to get us familiar with the Aramaic, and maybe you want to practice your speaking of it to learn the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, it would start with Avun Devashmaya. So that's our Father, and then in heaven. So I want to look at this very, very interesting word that's translated as heaven. It's pronounced here Devashmaya, but the word itself really is compounded of a number of different pronouns, a number of different letters that have fascinating meanings into them. Because what does heaven mean? When Jesus is saying, Our Father, and you'll see that this is translated numerous different ways, who art in heaven, which art in heaven. Um, if he's in heaven, what does that mean? And especially if we think of the nature of who God is here, that God is spirit. And so a spirit cannot be contained. Again, we struggle to totally understand the realm of the spirit, but isn't God everywhere? Does he have a central place where he's concentrated, if that's the right word to use? Or how does this, again, we struggle so much. And as I studied this, the more questions I had, the more I found out that I know what I don't know. And so I'm going to pass those thoughts on to you, see if it challenges us to think together, see if you get any ideas. But I'm hoping that when you see this word in the Bible of heaven, you'll never think of it the same again, because I know I won't. So let's dig in. So this word, devashmaya, um, when we take a look at it, we see that it's very similar to the word for um, water. And if we go to Genesis, of course, where we first see this brought out, it goes, Bereshit bara Elohim el hashamayim. So God created the heavens. So here we have the he as a definite article, which would be the heavens. The word is plural, which does not always mean multiplicity in Hebrew. Pluralism in Hebrew can also mean very large, very expansive, encompassing many different things. It can also mean very great, as in majestic and wonderful. And so we see that he created the heavens and the earth. So this heavens was in existence when the earth was created, which, okay, kind of makes sense. But in the ancient mindset, there were just two entities. Of course, they could not understand um, astronomy and didn't know, what was out there. So there was what was on the earth and beneath the earth, and then there was what was above the earth. And anything that was above the earth, 1 millimeter above the earth, was thought to be in the heavens, because it was in this expanse that was above the earth that, as far as they knew, continued to infinity. They just had no idea where it was. So, um, how does that fit with our idea of where uh, God is, or Devun, Avun Devashmaya, our Father who is in the heavens, everything above the earth? Um, Now, what gets a little more interesting here is if we go from to verse 6 in Genesis, we see that God obviously starts working and starts creating. But in verse 6, he said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the Hamayim, the waters. We're going to see that the word for water and heaven is very closely related, and that the word basically is spelled the same. So here is Hamayim, which the heavens is pronounced Shamayim. And then he divides the waters from the waters, and there became a firmament of the waters. And then he calls the waters um, sky here. It's translated in English as sky, but it's really Shemayim. So here is this word for water, and here's the word for heaven that are spelled almost, identical, that use the same word letters in them, and so let's take a look at the word for water in the Aramaic dictionary. And is really a mem and a yod, but it is also the word for what? I found this really interesting. The word for what is exact same as the word for water. We see the other entry here of the mem yod with an aleph, which in Aramaic, the aleph is sometimes used as the definite article, meaning putting a the in front of it to identify it as an article, an entity. So we get this mayim spelled almost the same way as shamayim. And so this is just very, very fascinating. So as we go back to our word for heaven, we have the dalet, the beit, the sheen, and then we have the mem, yod, aleph, which here is the mayim. But there are three letters in front of them. So let's take a little look at this. First, we look at the letter Dalet, which is a prefix, and that can also mean of, who, which, or that. And you'll notice here is a little sheen, which also can mean who, which, with, or that. So now you have two letters in front of Mayim that have numerous different meanings of who is in heaven, which is in heaven, that is in heaven, or of the heavens. And we take a look at the sheen here, just to see what that says. Here, the sheen is who, which, that, or for. And then we take a look at the beit that's in front of uh, the word here. Beit is in, within, on, out of that very thing. So you have numerous letters in front of the word for mayim, or water, that can be, why are they there? What are they trying to tell us? What is the significance first of all, we know that, we have a father, he's God. He's known as spirit. We get that from the book of John, that God is spirit, fills everything that we know of. But yet here Jesus is saying that he's somewhere, and it's translated in English as in heaven, who art in heaven. But whose perception was that of the translators? As we understand it, when it was translated thousands, or at least 1,000 years after Jesus spoke it, our concept of God and putting him in we'll say, a compartment, put him in a space, and thinking that he is in one place or in another place, and we picture celestial places and with thrones and things that we can relate to here on earth. But is it really that way in a heavenly realm, or is it just there to help us even get a little glimpse of trying to understand it? And that's kind of where my mind and thought goes, is that this realm of what Jesus is explaining here is so far beyond what we can conceive, because we're earthly, and he's speaking of celestial, of spiritual things. And, I believe God is everywhere. I don't believe he's contained to a certain location. But yet there are references in the Bible where they do allude to that, and the book of Job is one of them. Um, Paul also talks about different levels of heaven. Well, how does that fit in? Where is this realm that God dwells in? Or is it just so difficult for us to even comprehend the realm that God dwells in a spirit realm? And also, when we think of us having God's Spirit inside of us, he's dwelling within us. How does that work? How is God dwelling inside of us? Is it somewhat of a metaphor or illustration of God dwelling in heaven? Because we struggle to to really explain how it is that God dwells in us. You know, where is that? We can feel it. We know scripturally that it occurs, but yet to truly identify it and truly explain it, um, I'm at a loss for words. And um, that's what I feel as I start unpacking this Avun Devashmaya, that our Father, in, of, which, start putting all the prepositions, that, like, for, um, in a realm that exists when the earth and heavens were created, but then the heavens were somewhat modified to become an atmosphere, which is the firmament, as described in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. But yet, where does it go? Where does it end? Where is the end of heaven? And um, how does that all even begin to be processed in my little mind and thoughts, I guess is where I'm going here. And I'm wondering, is that what they thought when they heard this? Again, it's not important what I'm thinking today. I'm trying to get a mindset of what they felt when they heard Jesus say, Avun Devashmaya. What were they thinking? What was their understanding of God? And in this case, in a more personal term of Avun, of our Father, that he was in heaven, okay, but in my relationship with God, God is with me. Um, Understanding him to be, as some have thought and some have taught, that God is in a faraway celestial place. Some don't even feel that he knows or is concerned what's going on with us. I don't ascribe to that at all. I feel he's with me. He's in me, as it's sometimes spoken of, that he's in us and through us and with us all. um, Try to bring that thought together and put that in this little verse here of De Avun Devashmaya, that he's in and through and within, and every part that you can call the universe, the everything that's above the earth, the Shemayim, um, he is there. And again, I'm just amazed. I'm just in awe of who we call God, God who has revealed himself to us as spirit and in flesh, in the form of Jesus. And it just makes me love him, makes me feel so much just in awe of him. And I hope that I've been able to convey a little bit of what I'm feeling right now, that you will also come away with an awesomeness of this great and wonderful God that we serve, and most importantly, that he loves us so very, very much. So God bless you all and have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for joining us for this little bit of Aramaic, and see you next week.